Get set, where them hands, where them holes, where them throws, you know what I'm saying? Cecil.
I am going to start doing videos for some of these things instead of putting all my thought in text out there on the internet, and I don't even get a view or anything for it on my channel. So this one is going to be a response to what I thought was a very thought-provoking post put on the martial arts community on Facebook by a guy called P. Paulo Rubio. Now, thank goodness he put up a post talking about his background, so it made it a lot easier for me to research him. So the way that he describes himself is him and another person in a video he put up is he's a Bhakti Tirsa Kali practitioner along with several other influencers. And he says in the next paragraph, 95% of Filipino martial artists don't hard spar full contact, but let me tell you, we all should. It's a fun and it's a great way to communicate and create good friendships. So I'm assuming that he does Filipino martial arts and he's got his own spin on it. But the thing I'm responding to was a very thought-provoking post. Let me read it really quick in case, the link gets taken down. He says here, traditional martial artists instructors, take a good long, hard look at yourselves. There's a division between MMA and TMA, and the blame is often pointed in the direction of the undisciplined, unintelligent MMA meatheads who poke fun at traditional martial artists. These are his words, not mine. I'll spare the usual argumentation from the MMA side. You've seen and heard it all before. Let's focus on the ways traditional martial artists widen the division and perpetuate nonsensical ideas. Traditional martial artists often propose that discipline, honor, respect, and integrity are within the sole domain of traditional arts. This could not be further from the truth. You can acquire and develop these qualities from a boxing gym and an MMA academy just the same, if not to a higher degree. Competition is healthy and it provides countless opportunities to test one's discipline, resilience, mental and emotional toughness, and perhaps most importantly, humility. Traditional martial artists often propose that MMA is a sport and that real life in the streets are different. Rarely do they acknowledge that most MMA fighters already know this, and that it would take little effort to make streetwise adjustments to the sport-specific skills to make them formidable tools outside the realm of standard fair play. Recently, in this very same forum, there was a post depicting a young woman in traditional martial arts with the call to action providing them opportunities to develop leadership skills. I commented that they ought to cross-train and compete with female MMA fighters. This suggestion was met with the most insecure and illogical rebuttals that failed to see the value of my proposition. The responses focused on the negative without examining the potential positive outcomes. It was utterly ridiculous. These are his words, not mine. I was made to feel, quote, on the other side, quote, in that my comment was contrary to the spirit of the post rather than being complimentary. Side note, there's a difference between compliment and compliment. Critical thinking goes a long way. Introspection goes a long way. Take a deep breath and a moment of reflection before commenting. I'm happy to address intelligent responses even if we disagree, and I will ignore knee-jerk, insecure, and defensive responses rooted in emotion instead of logic. As usual, I expect the offended and insecure just to react with laughed emojis. Okay. So let me give my long thought out response. Let me say this. This is where I am in terms of being a traditional martial artist and being MMA so that you can get an idea of where I'm probably coming from. The only reason, and if there were a way to say I was anointed this title, right? A guy who is a professional MMA fighter, I'm not going to say who he is, he's somebody I know offline, right? He told me that I am MMA. So, if there's a pass, I was given one. I said, I understand why you say that. And I am definitely have been influenced by MMA, but I'm not MMA. Why not? You're doing it. I said, yeah, I am doing it, but I have not competed in the MMA competition format, nor do I train people to compete in the MMA competition format. Therefore, until I had that certification, either as having competed or being certified to teach others to compete in MMA from someone else, then and only then would I consider myself to be MMA. It's like, oh, well, yeah, I can see your point. But you're cross-training. I say, exactly. I am a traditional martial artist who cross-trains. I participated in traditional and sport-oriented martial arts. And then when I made this argument with other people, like, well, yeah, that makes you MMA. Yeah, but I still do the forms. My thing is, I see the value in the pajamas. I see the value in the forms. And I definitely see the value in getting in there and working out with other people. And really, furthermore, that's what traditional, if you would take the time to go back and look at the history of a lot of styles that we consider to be traditional now, that's how they started off. They made their style based on the other styles that they knew about or people they worked out with or trained with before they came up with what we now put up on a holy grail and call tradition. So that's my basic thing. And where I think the actual division comes from, yes, it does come from some instructors. But I see more and more the division coming from the way things are perceived by the public. Like the most virulent critic I heard of the traditional martial arts, of mixed martial arts, came from a lady that I'm not going to name, who, as far as I know, she is not a martial artist. She does not have any martial arts experience. She just thinks it's barbaric, and she thinks that wearing the pajamas and doing the high kicks in public is something that is of honor and takes discipline. That's her perception, not mine, because she posted something on Facebook that was so anti-MMA. I felt bad for MMA. I was like, oh my God. I was like, hey girl, I'm surprised you even speak to me. She's like, no, there's a big difference between what you do and what they do. It's like, okay, cool. So, and then you've got people who want to, they think anything with any tradition is, ew, it's old. Ew, I want to do that. That's old. That's not hip. That's that. I don't want to do that. That's old fashioned. That's old school. I want to do something that's new, that's hip, that's now, that's wow, that I see on TV. Look, I see it on TV. So it's cool. So I must do it because television is telling me to do it. That's where I think the real division is coming from, and trying to cater to those two markets. In addition to, hey, I'm going to tell you, I've lost some students because their parents don't want their children to learn how to break fall. And I'm like, it's like they were doing I had them doing the judo portion of sparring, just the judo. And she said, this lady said, I don't like that. I don't want them doing that. And all the kid did was get thrown, and he did a nice fall. I said, don't you realize that break falling is like fundamental to any type of martial arts? That if at least that all arts should include it. Well, I just think that part's too rough. And I'm like, okay, you think where he's thrown and he lands safely is too rough, but the part where they're actually learning how to punch and kick at each other, and I don't allow them to kick somebody in the head because they could give them brain damage or concussion, that's not too rough? No, that's fine. And I'm like, okay. What am I going to do? Nothing I could do there. So I think that's a division. And, people are taking the martial arts for their own reasons, or they have their perceptions for their own reasons. Some people just want to do it for health. Some people just want to bang. Some people want to go into something that they feel like takes them into an alternative world. And some people, they're just combat nerds that are just interested in anything martial. And I'm sure a lot of us were drawn into the martial arts by Bruce Lee, or maybe they were influenced by an instructor they had when they were a child and they saw the value in that. So since wars are fought, with guns and things like that, and knives in large groups and tanks and stuff, there's still value in traditional martial arts if you want to use it for character building and civilian self-defense. Now, one thing he says in here, and this is true, where he says you can acquire and develop the qualities of, honor and discipline from a boxing gym and not just from TMA. And you can also acquire these attributes too outside of any combat sports. A good coach should be teaching that to their athletes. You can acquire this from being a musician. That's where I learned a lot about discipline and things like that, was from playing music, because it requires discipline if you want to get any good at playing your instrument. Now, this paragraph he says here, where he says competition is healthy, of course, that's absolutely true. I'm only going to state this I'm literally just trying to be contrarian here, just for the sake of argument. The only time competition can be unhealthy is if you're doing unhealthy and unethical things to win. And let's not try to act like there aren't any environments around combat sports where people aren't doing unhealthy and unsafe things to win, like being overly aggressive, only valuing people when they win, and steroids. We know that's true. But his basic argument is sound, though. Traditional martial artists often propose MMA as a sport and that real life and the streets are different. The people that do that get on my nerves, but they are right. MMA is a sport and real life is different, and you can just adjust the stuff slightly to make it deadly. I can tell you one thing, definitely for judo. I'll put it out there. I'll just say, if you just change the angle of a lot of the throws, you got something deadly. There was a reason why Kano has you throw the things the way that he put in the instructions, so that you land on the least destructive part of the body. All you got to do is change the angle. And as an aside, that was a problem I had having some military experience. I never saw combat, but I had military training because I was a reservist. Oh, yeah, I know this throw. They'd be like, stop! You're doing the combat version of the throw. Change the angle. And I'd be like, yeah, because, we're supposed to throw them on their head. That's how we learn how to do it. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. I'm not supposed to do it that way. I'm not supposed to drop them straight on their head. I got to turn my shoulder so that they land on their back. So, yeah. So there is a difference. But this is something else, too, that I think MMA people need to realize. Is that, yes, sport is different than a ring. And some of the stuff you get away with in a ring, like the ground and pound. You ground and pound people, that can be considered lethal force in some jurisdictions. And then they might be able to turn around and stab you. I really need to find that article where I read that in one of my local jurisdictions. Well, yeah, one of my local jurisdictions, because I'm teaching people in a tri-state area, where the prosecutor allowed the person that was on the ground being grounded and pounded. He didn't get charged with using lethal force when he stabbed the person that was pounding him, because they feel like if you're on top of the person, you're raining down blows upon them, there's nothing else they could do but, reach a weapon, because that's deadly. It's just like kicking people in the head when they're down on the ground is considered lethal force. So if the person on the ground uses a weapon to defend themselves, then they're defending lethal force with lethal force. Okay, I'm not an attorney, though, so I could be wrong. Please do not consider this legal advice. Now, this thing about where he's saying that young women were encouraged to do TMA for leadership skills, and he said they should cross-train with female MMA fighters, I don't know anything about that. But if that happened, I think that's a good idea. And if people poo-pooed his idea, I don't know why. I think that's a great thing for them to do. I really do. I mean, if it were up to me, well, this is what I do. I'll say this, because this is what I've done. Train in a TMA. Pick your favorite TMA, right? Train in your TMA, and then you dip your head over in some combat sports. So that way, you have your TMA structure, and you have that competition stress. That's one approach. Another approach, because I've done both of these approaches actually, Now, I do think, and a lot of people probably want to disagree with me on this, if you have real world fighting experience already, you don't need combat sports to be able to fight. You should probably go to TMA. But also, if you have real world fighting experience, and I had to work this out too. I've only had a few quote unquote real fights, not that many. You can benefit from competing too, so you can realize emotionally. It's one thing to know it mentally, it's another thing to walk it out emotionally. Yeah, I need to be able to stop myself from doing some of these movements so that I don't kill somebody under stress. Do it in TMA first. Now, I didn't plan this out ahead of time. This was something, maybe you could say my spirit knew I had to do it this way. But I had to work this out in TMA first. Like, oh, I need to be able to stop myself when I'm doing something that's coming at me fast so that I won't have to go straight through execution to kill or hurt. Really to hurt. Because, real fights, hey, I'm trying to knock his head off, right? I had to get over that with the emotional control. Then, military training. Had to modify this stuff so that I can do this and just stun, not go all the way through. And I'm not saying the military is bad. The military was doing what they're supposed to do. They're training you for war. They're not training you to handle Joe Knucklehead on the street. They're training you to survive in a dangerous combat environment. The thing is, I feel like we as civilians, we have a bigger burden because we don't know really how the counter could go. It could just be you blowing off steam with Joe Knucklehead and things could flip on you and then go into combat. And when that happens, you're going to be judged. And you don't necessarily know what the intentions of the other person are. So we have to be able to handle a wide range of force, with a reasonable response. And that's tough to do. So after you go through your emotional fine-tuning for tradition, then dip your head in competition and learn how to do that under even more stress. Because now you got to temper your desired win. You got to temper your desire to win with not harming a person, even if they're trying to harm you because of ethics. That is tough. But I mean, ultimately, if I have a preferred thing, I consider myself to be traditional, even though I've created my own style. So how's that tradition if you're creating your own style? And really, come to find out, really didn't create anything. I just reinvented the Hapkido wheel. But it's still Cecil Taekwondo, in my opinion, because I'm sticking close to general choice forms, and we spend a lot of time doing the forms. I guess I just don't want to give up my dance moves. But I don't limit myself to my dance moves. And what am I open to studying? Everything. Because see, to me, everything is Taekwondo, because Taekwondo is supposed to translate as a way of the hand and foot. When are you not using your hand or your foot in unarmed and armed self-defense? Thanks for watching this video. Like, comment, subscribe. Please share this with people that talk about the martial arts. Special shout out to P. Paulo Rubio. I think it was a very good and very thought-provoking post. That's why I made a video response to it. And if you listen to all this, thank you very much. Peace, and as always, thank you for your time. I appreciate it.